We're still in the process of the coronavirus, so I'm going to cover a bit of that. We're also in the process of having a President Trump, and I'm going to cover a bit of that. And I'm going to cover a bit of what I talked about the other day, which is the Psychotronic generators that is used in Russia and the process that they have on the world, the purpose behind them, and how that affects the United States, large masses of people throughout the United States. If you listened or watched the other one where I said all that, good. If not, I'm going to show it again, a small portion of it, so you understand what a psychic generator is, and that it really is something to consider as a problem, an invisible problem that affects the hearts and minds of people reincarnating, and the hearts and minds of people who are incarnated, and little children and their process of what they're going to do in their life and how they're going to behave. A lot of that can be affected through psychic generators on mass levels. And if you consider that Russia has made millions of psychic generators, and they use them rarely on their own people. They did use them, and I'm going to show you where they did use them. But they, as I can also show you through CIA and KGB reports, because I'm given those reports, I can show you in those reports, video reports, that the head of the KGB was involved in the process of the generators, the psychic generators, and for the purpose was that the Russian reality, the way in which their Cossack reality and their relationship of dictatorship, their mindset goes, is that it has a great deal of glamours on the left-hand side, and it expresses those glamours in a very large way. And in esoteric forms, as Buddha, I teach about the 7 rays. So that particular country is very strong in the 7th ray and the 6th ray. And so that means that they have very strong psychokinetic abilities. And so they hired, they put out commercials. In the early 80s and 90s, they put commercials out for all the people who are interested in the military and who are in the military, that they have a brand new organization in the military, and it's called the Psychic Warriors. And they enlisted millions of Russians to go into buildings and be trained with these psychic generators and how to use them. And the thing is that you don't have to be extremely psychic to get the generator to work. The generator is what makes you psychic. So just by being in the presence of the generator, it enhances certain developing qualities of psychicism in a lower nature, which means you're willing to kill someone by stopping their heart willfully. You're willing to think negative thoughts that could manifest in the masses of thousands of people and watch it on the news that afternoon and not have any remorse. You could be willing to be the person who guides people through a terrorist attack in Iran and creates an entire organization of Muslims. You'd be willing to do such a thing. That took place. So there's a great deal going on. This isn't just about America. It's about Iran. It's about China. It's about the world and the way in which it's being manipulated. And it's being manipulated by, I know, one country, Russia, who is using psychic generators to carry out a plan. And it's not a good plan. If you look at Putin, he has become a president who got everybody to elect him into office where he will never, ever be taken out of office. That's in his new presidential position. Well, it's a coincidence that the same thing happened in China. And it's pretty hard to imagine that could be pulled off, knowing that Korea is the way it is, and, dictatorship doesn't really flow in the process of world countries and their peace way of dealing with democracy and things like that. So something other than democracy is going on, and an influence of creating dictators is what's happening. And so there is an instilling, an overshadowing, a manipulating of individuals. You can call it Trump, you can call it other people, but it is individuals, large masses of individuals, some who are specifically being manipulated at times to create more and more chaos, more and more disruption inside of society. Things that you should be not hearing, especially from the president. You should not be hearing the president during a time where it only takes a little while to watch the news from every state. As a president, you would do that, and you'd watch every news media that comes from the state, and they tell you that day what is going on in their state, how many people have a virus, how many people are having problems, how many of those states do not have the testing equipment in order to complete the tests, the swabs and things like that. All he has to do is care. All he has to do is spend his time looking into that. But something drives him not to do that. So he comes out with another process while all this is going on and all the people are suffering and the second wave is manifesting and younger people are getting the virus and getting sick. He comes out and tells people that they have tested 40 million people, and that 40 million people, even though they were tested, 99% of them will have no harm done to them. 99%. He says this. So that's a powerful influence on humanity. Because all the doctors, if you were to listen to them, they're going, I just wish people wouldn't go outside. I wish the kids didn't have this influence going on. Politicians and other people not wearing masks and not taking responsibility and having people go back to work or go back in bars or haircuts or whatever it is you want to do, without doing this the long run until we can test everybody and know where everybody's at in this and bring it down to 100 to 200 people who are dying. Total. That could have been done. But it's not done. It's nowhere near going to be done. And the doctors are fighting. Everybody's fighting to carry it out in a real reality world. But we're not in a real reality world. We're in a world that is scripted. It's scripted. It is scripted. And everything, whether you're in Denver or you're in Utah or you're in any place, there are psychic generators in your town. There are psychic generators by the numbers, large numbers, in every city in the United States. There are psychic generators that are lowering the vibration of this planet, especially the United States. And it gives us an opposite relationship to holiness, a right relationship to things that should or should not be done, like fracking or the monument that the president went to, and the American Indians, how we treat them, and the relationship of that billions of miles of acres of land that are the American Indians' land. It's a holy land by the nation. In the 1800s, it was written down in Congress that land is the Native Americans. And it was reconnected in 1986 by the Supreme Court, stating the same thing, that land is their land, so it gives right for them to be paid if they want to sell it, and they don't, so what they want is the land to go back to its nature so that it can heal the planet and do what it's supposed to be doing, because they can recognize the spirit in the mountain, the spirit in the trees, and spirit in everything. That changes things. That is very powerful. And we're not in a world that is reality. We're in a world that is made up, a world that is directed by the astral plane, a world that is planned out, by publicists and by writers on TV and by really bad people in the music industry who are only like 10 people writing all the songs. All the songs in music is written by less than 10 people right now. Because you're totally inside a delusion. You think Taylor Swift is getting their songs out and everybody else is doing what they're doing, but they're all using tracks and vibrato in relationship to different types of technology, and they're using no technique whatsoever. Nothing. No art, no quality, no heart, no soul. Gone. Not like the 60s and the 70s when people who played the instruments grew up as a child playing those instruments, and quite often they were really major piano players or really into, certain types of music, making of music or writing music as a child, so they were ordained in the gift of God. But that isn't where we're at right now. We're under these psychic generators manifesting a glamour, manifesting large groups of people who are glamour-oriented and rich, and manifesting a lifestyle for all of humanity to be wasting our life and under a delusion of a dream. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with reality, and we're all in the suffering of it, and a grand amount of it is manifested by the dark forces of witchcraft and dark forces of divination and dark forces of opening every single door that allowed these dark energies in. But having these psychic generators in our cities and channeling through our president and through other people, causing us to have to deal with the fact that none of this is going to be taken care of correctly. Yeah, we can go into a nuclear war without any doubt. Yeah, simply because we've got a person who's not an idiot, very bright person, yeah, who has a great deal of soul, great deal of power, but he's being misused. He's being used. He's a greedy, avarice person who has no karma to be the president of the United States. And that taking someone so avarice and so greedy, very much like Putin, yeah, someone who would lie and lie and lie. That's their own nature. He's been doing this all his life. Yeah, so a perfect channel for the influence of these psychic generators and the hierarchy of people who want to become dictators. And if you watch him, you'll notice that he really loves the guy of North Korea because he loves the way he has military react to him. He really loves the guy of China because he thinks he has power. And he thinks he'd like to be like him in the state of power. He really loves the guy in Russia because for the same reasons. And it's a psychic influence back and forth that they're all influenced under this process. And it's psychic energy. It's not a joke. If you go back to Hitler's time, the entire group of the hierarchy of Hitler, the entire group, was a cult. And they were all mediums and psychics, and they had great big buildings of psychicism. They started the first process of psychic generators and finding psychics, manipulating the minds, manipulating people, creating mind-washing techniques by psychicism. Yeah, and this is where we're at. We've come to an extreme place in which it is very finely developed and has been orchestrated in Russia by the millions of psychic generators. You don't even know they exist. You'll never see them on eBay. You'll never see them in the hands of an American. They're only in the hands of Russian spies. Yeah. And that influence is big. If you look back in history, it's been going on for a long time. It's called the Cold War. And we are in this. It's not gone away. We're in the middle of it. This is the worst of times of that. But we can all overcome it. I'm here. Yeah. And I'm the antidote to the psychic generator. I put out Vajras, etheric weavers. I've been knowing this I was actually involved in the process through many different universities of counteracting this very work. CIA wanted very much to develop people individually, psychically, in order to counteract the work that was going on in Russia. Yeah, it went down the wrong road. They started pushing people into manipulating the minds. There's movies about it, of putting sleep, focusing on a sheep, and it actually killed the sheep, stopping the heart of the sheep. They were psychically trained to do that. And they didn't have the ability to do that. Their heart and their soul was not a killer. That's why they were in that group. They were peaceful warriors, but yet they were directed to be harmful warriors. And it ended the entire group. It no longer exists. And that's because I'm here. This country is not in the League of Darkness. It's not a left-hand spin. Our presidents and our Congress and the making of our nation and the making of America is all blessed by God and oriented by God. The making of everything that we do is under God's blessing. My being here is God's blessing. It's a fulfillment of God's creation. And we're going to overcome this. And the way it's going to be done is by telling you the truth. None of this stuff is going to be on the news. It's not going to be, put out. You're dealing with day-to-day pandemic. illusion and delusion, and a president that won't wear a mask and talks people down, saying that it's all just a political ruse, and that there really is nothing to the virus. It's more flu than anything else, and most people really don't get sick from it. So and we know, at least you should know, that that is not the truth, because this is what the truth is. Right now we have a lot of people who are dealing with this virus, and they're in hospitals, and these are doctors, who are actually dealing with it. Let's see.
The beginning of a sharp increase nationwide of moms with coronavirus giving birth.
There's actually some literature out there to support up to a 30% asymptomatic rate. So 30%? That means 30% asymptomatic rate.
Of moms coming in?
Of moms coming in.
See, now that's truth. That's truth. Babies, moms, have a 30% increase in who it is that when we see these viruses come up in the tests and they say they're positive. Well, the people who are getting the virus, who get sick, the ones that Trump says 99% don't get sick, but there is an enormous number of people getting sick, because there are an enormous number of people, if we look at this, just looking at it.
Pregnancy and coronavirus,
that number,
one piece of
2,686,000.
Hospital treating a rising tide of critically sick patients.
The last few weeks has just been overwhelming.
That's real reality. That's not 99%. We don't get sick. The reality is that people do get sick, and then it's not only that the sick people who are going to die anyway get sick, because that's also what Trump says. So, and that's not true. People 50 years and above are the only people who are susceptible. That's not true. Children are susceptible. And it's been shown. When we were in this situation in many different hospitals throughout America, it was shown that children are suffering and dying, and they can't figure out why these symptoms are so bad, why they're having heart attacks. They can't figure it out, because it's certainly not the flu. It's an epidemic of a viral virus that changes. It changes. It's not a virus. It has a changing quality to it. And that's something in medicine we're aware of, but it really is harder to deal with, much harder to deal with. So how do we deal with this? How do we treat it? First of all, we're dealing with the fact that it hits the lungs. It not only hits the lungs, it damages the lungs so bad that the person fills up with mucus and fills up with liquid, and the alveoli, the whole process of the ability to breathe, is limited down to about 20 to 30%. And they're thinking, well, ventilator, immediate ventilator, and let's stick a tube down there. Let's control this. But actually, that's making it worse. Because you've got already bad lungs, and now you're forcing the lungs to work, which causes them to have very bad damage later, and even harder time recuperating. So the key is that they're missing oxygen. So let's get it in the blood. Let's put some large tubes into the veins and the arteries and circulate that blood with a great deal of oxygen. That's what they chose to do, but it took a period of time. And only a couple hospitals came up with this and decided, this is our method, this is what we're going to do. Instead of doing the ventilator, we're going to focus on this. And within 5 minutes, it made an immediate difference. You gave rest to the lungs. You give oxygen to the lungs, let it take it in as it's healing. But you give the oxygen directly through the bloodline, where all the organs and all the blood clotting could stop. This is science. Yeah. This is where we, on a higher mind, everybody is in a higher mind. It's called the soul. Yeah. And we all can get this. We all can get this. If we watch it on the news, we go, oh my God, did you hear that? You know, and if our soul isn't radiating enough with a higher mind, then we actually can't hear it. And it's confusing. Yeah. And we make up other things because we believe what other people might have said, so we take little interest in it. Yeah. But we have higher mind. And everybody I've watched, every doctor, every nurse, every circumstance is being dealt with higher mind. They see that this is an enormous tragedy. This can be dealt with.
Methodist Hospital uses a procedure to oxygenate the blood and keep patients off ventilators. It's called ECMO, or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Today, Dr. Della Volpe is inserting large tubes in the veins of a 33-year-old. They run from the groin all the way to the heart. The blood comes out of the body, is mechanically oxygenated, then returned back to the heart almost immediately. The Methodist team have had a lot of practice, the procedure taking only a few minutes.
It involves being able to take large cannulas. They're almost like small garden hoses, is how I would describe them. They have to be able to pump about 2 or 3 gallons of blood per minute through them. So one is draining blood out and the other one is returning.
The blood coming out of the patient is dark. It just looks unhealthy. The blood returning is bright red, loaded with oxygen. Almost immediately, oxygen level in the patient's blood goes back to near normal. Their chance of survival now better than if they were on a ventilator.
I think the ventilator really causes a lot of harm, and we're finding that it causes harm in general, but it certainly causes harm when we're talking about patients with COVID.
Because their lungs are so weak to begin with?
Because their lungs are so weak, and because probably there's other reasons why patients are having trouble.
The ventilator's pushing oxygen into the lungs.
That's right.
Into damaged lungs.
That's right. So not only are you having all of the problems with the blood vessels and the clotting in your blood vessels, not only are you having all of the problems of oxygen not being able to get to your organs and your organs shutting down from that, but now you're artificially pushing air into your lungs and causing more damage that way.
Yeah. So I worked in medicine for a long time. Yeah. And I worked in all other forms of energetic medicine. And so I have a lot of background in this area. Yeah. And everything everybody's saying and what they're doing is right, you know, except for our government and other governments. You could go to Spain, you can go to Brazil, you can go to all these countries. And the problem isn't the people. The problem is the government. The problem is maybe even your religious leader saying you got to come to church after someone dies. If you're Hebrew, yeah, someone dies, you've got your rabbi calling everybody up saying, you know, get down there because we got to have 100 people around this person. Every single person's got to get around this person. It's mandatory. And that was hard to break. It was the rabbis who was able to wake up and then start calling people saying, no, we can't do that. No, we can't. We got to not do that. Yeah. And all these different habitual delusionary things that are harmful in times like this, yeah, are things that we cannot control. Yeah, and including wanting to go to the bar, wanting to hang with friends, you know, wanting to go out to the beach, wanting to go back to work, even to have an income. Yeah, it's all, you know, strong in how we feel we need to do. Yeah, but there is the truth, and if we're in the middle of an epidemic and it's a pandemic, you know, we need to deal with this with the truth, with higher mind, without anything else. But there is the soul. And the soul has the ability, just like this relationship with Putin, just like with this psychic generator scenario. Everybody is psychic. You just have not been taught properly. Your religions have told you to be a sheep. Your religions have told you that you got to go to the priest and pray for forgiveness, and the priest will then do what they do in their holiness, and that will be the banner between you and your sin. And you never get rid of your sins. You have no idea that even a greater sinner is standing before you, doing sins that only happen in hell. I mean, the sins you might carry out at home are nothing compared to what's going on behind the booth. Yeah, those are in hell. Those are sanctified by hell. And you can go all the way to the Pope, and if you were to listen to what he says, listen to what he says. He takes refuge to Lucifer. That's what he says. Yeah? He says Lucifer is the Father. Yeah? And he, the Pope, embodies the Father. So he, in his own invocation, evocation, and church, yeah, he is the cult leader of Lucifer. Yeah? And you don't get this, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's really easy to see. All you got to do is go in there and listen to him and have it deciphered. You know, what is he saying? Well, he just said decreed to Lucifer. He what? Yeah. Well, why do you think he said that? I don't know. I couldn't really hear because I don't understand Latin. Why the hell do you think they're doing it in Latin? Yeah. Because it goes back to ancient times in Babylon, when everything was under Lucifer. And you can make stronger invocations in satanic realms. You know, right or left. You can make your invocations very strong using those words. Yeah, so that's why they do it. Yeah. So it's the same thing, psychic generators. Yeah, using people to be, there are two kinds. There's the receiver and the transmitter. We're all psychic. Yeah? In delusions of grandeur, those people are the transmitters. Delusions of grandeur. Yeah? So you really lose what's known as the will of God. Because it's the people in the delusions of grandeur who have the will of Satan in place of God, because Satan believes that he can take the place of God. Yeah. And to do that, he's got to do this freaking masquerade that he's got going on. And he's using psychicism to do it. It's all behind the scene. You have no idea it's going on. But I'm here. Yeah. I'm the biggest psychic you're ever going to come across. I'm literally Buddha, according to Tibetans. And they're a really psychic group. Yeah. But I'm their lead psychic. I'm the one they attune to know they're seeing a proper view. This mind, my mind, this individual mind is tapped in by millions of people. And it creates Buddhism of certain types. If I go in and anoint that monastery, anoint those Rinpoches, anoint that process, it's cleansed, it's purified, there's a lot more of my energy manifesting, it makes change. And those people then connect. Yeah. So in Tibetan Buddhism that happened. Great deal. That happened really much. So this is the psychic generator. You see this guy sitting here? I'm turned into a psychic generator. I'm allowing myself to not manipulate. Yeah, I'm known as kindness. I have a nature about me that's very different. I do not have any glamours. None, not one. Because I don't have a glamour, I can sit on this throne of Buddhism and I could be the vehicle for transmission to hit and then go out and make manifest in every living human being, child, old person, brand new baby, reincarnated person in cycle. I'd be in it because this is all psychic. Yeah. And it's wearing this crown. If you see in Tibetan Buddhism, when they pull out the Kali Chakra, the Lord of freaking time, yeah? The Lord of the world, that's his crown. That's the crown. That was the first crown ever put on my head. Yeah? So just with that, I go from there into Tibet, and I take my tools, because I'm the psychic new Buddha, yeah, Buddha Maitreya, yeah, with a totally different way of teaching. I teach soul therapy. I teach that I'm the only thing that radiates. I radiate 7 rays. They are my chakras. They are the manifestation of everything in the world. You know, they have everything in them to bring balance to everything else. So I put out these sciences. I put out these tools. Yeah. And all these masters get these tools. And this is a science, and it's literally something I've been planning. Yeah. I mean, the Tibetans came to get me when I was 9. I already knew the Russians were after us. I knew it was a psychic generator in Sputnik. I already knew that. And I was just a little kid. I was having letters sent back and forth, yeah, to NASA to communicate with them in the space program. Yeah. I was involved in the reality of what's going down with Kennedy, and that there are evil dark forces manifested to kill this guy. Not only him, but a large number of saintly beings who are alive today that are up against this dark wall. Yeah. And they just got picked off all within just a couple years. You know, Bobby, Martin Luther King, Kennedy, yeah, Gandhi, yeah. It's like, wow, how is that possible? Think of Russia. Yeah, just imagine. Yeah. They're very, very interested in thinking that they are the superior people on planet Earth. There's nothing more superior, nothing more beautiful, nothing more perfect than what comes out of that glamour. And to do that, it has to see so much fault and fear in others. And to maintain it, you have to use propaganda. You have to say delusionary things, or you can manipulate things to happen, called the astral plane, and use psychicism to get people to be orchestrated, to do the things you say they would do if they were bad people. These are people who just go out and buy bags in malls. Yeah, they're just a bunch of capitalists. That's what Russia says. That's what the communists would say. That's why they built what they did. Yeah. So what would they then psychically project into us? Capitalism in a bad way. Not minimalism, capitalism, which is totally different. Yeah. You can be as rich as you want to be, as long as you're a minimalist. Yeah? God gives you what God gives you. Yeah? If you're a minimalist, then you deal with it properly. And everything moves forward. Because it is what it is. Yeah? You either receive very little, and that's what you get, and that's how you live. God gives that to you. You're provided. And other people, there are certain circumstances that comes to make people extremely wealthy. And they need to be able to be a minimalist and share that wealth and those responsibilities of caring and sharing. Just the way things work. It's not a communist thing. It's the common sense mind of the soul. Yeah. When the soul's healthy, we behave like this. Yeah. You know. So there's in this structure of trying to create democracy and trying to create peace in the world. Yeah. The key in Russia is to create and orchestrate chaos in order to create a lack of growth, yeah, and more social disorder, and a direction in which the humanity chooses their leaders. Yeah, yeah. If you get people to hate black people, and you get people to riot a lot, and then you get people that come out, and these are all evolutionary things. People are going, I don't want to be treated like this, and they shouldn't have to riot. It should be something that's awakening in us, yeah? But there's a process in this dark reality that puts people in a vibration, a psychic vibration, that gives us prejudice and jealousy and enviousness and hate. Yeah? And all these things that everybody is protesting about are these glamours. And they want to be free from them. Yeah? And it's not going to happen through fighting and stuff, because that's the glamours instilled in them. And those glamours then go to war. Yeah? None of them are peaceful. None of them are saintly. You know, just because they're a certain race that has been held down doesn't make them that they're, you know, a better anything. It just is the way it is. If you look everywhere, that's the way it is for everybody. Yeah? Everybody is in the same boat. Yeah? It doesn't matter who you are. Yeah? Yeah? So there is this psychic process going on. Big increase, generators. No, this one there. This is the psychic generators.
The Berlin Wall, a barrier that insulated the Soviet Union from the rest of the world. Ultra-secret facilities contained behind that wall were developing weapons of incredible power. The infamous Moscow signal was a microwave energy directed at unsuspecting employees inside the U.S. Embassy. Even Richard Nixon, during an official visit to the Soviet Union, was a target of this program. All the details regarding this operation have yet to be uncovered. Nino Kulagina, directed by her KGB handlers, was able to use the power of her mind to control the heartbeat of a frog. And the KGB, in turn, found ways to turn such power against unsuspecting human targets. At first glance, these objects looked harmless, like children's toys. But we now know that the KGB invested millions of rubles in their testing and development.
The discovery of the energy associated with psychic phenomenon will be as important, if not more important, than the discovery of atomic energy.
1963 was an important year in the Soviet paranormal research because this was the year when the man with no face, Professor Grigory Goncharov, began his secret research in one of the KGB laboratories, research for the Psychotronics weapons.
Just as the common battery stores electricity, these psychotronic generators absorb positive or negative psychic energy.
Various psychotronic devices have different effects, and if it was programmed to cause illness, you would start to feel kind of depressed and want to cry for no reason, and you feel anxious, and in some cases it can even bring on heart attacks, and that's kind of a reaction if it's a very, very strong type.
A psychotronic generator can influence a whole crowd of people. It can affect a person's psyche, memory, or attention span.
General Kalugin was one of the best sources of the information about secret KGB programs, and they hated him with passion. They do it even up to this day. They try to smear his name. And when I say they, I mean former KGB officers. General Kalugin has done much for the Russian democracy. And because of him, people in the West found out about secret paranormal programs of the KGB to an extent that they never had before.
Obviously, the Soviet security services could not stay indifferent to those efforts to produce a new, deadly or whatever, mysterious weapon. So they tried to explore the mysteries of human power of other people and simulate a generator of the same kind, nature, which produced a similar effect. But as far as I know, the military did produce something of that nature, and according to my knowledge, it was very successful.
Declassified KGB documents indicate the construction and testing of larger, more powerful psychotronic generators.
The KGB and the Soviet government were very much interested in telepathy because it would allow them control over population. Professor Goncharov, the man with no face, revealed back in 1996. Then 10 years before, in 1986, the Soviets were ready to launch a satellite. Within 5 years, a satellite would have on board a psychotronic weapon that would be able to emanate radiation to control a population in the area of 20,000 square kilometers. The US government was afraid of Sputnik, not only because the Russians beat them to the space race, but because of ways how the Soviets would use such a satellite. And Americans could easily see Soviets taking such weapons into orbit.
Yep. So, some of them create a field large enough, especially if it's in a satellite, a field large enough to effectively affect the whole nation. Yeah. So, like Iran or Iraq or Israel, yeah. Places that have strong sixth ray tendencies, places that are under a religious dogma of any kind, and want to have a political working out of a plan of some kind. You know, like Israel wants to be recognized, and all these places want to have their political connection to the world and a right to exist. Yeah. But there's this other process in the Dark Lodge that's going around, that's been around since the beginning of time. Yeah. And it creates this process that we're in. Yeah. And right now, we are in the place in which we have these generators, and they're doing what they're doing, and they're doing them in locations all around the planet. And they're affecting, not just, imagine, if you can imagine right now, for a long time, Russia has been involved with Iran. Yeah. And they were deeply involved in a psychic way, deeply involved in creating a strong glamour-filled ray package. Now, Russia is where Blavatsky comes from, a lady named Blavatsky. She's a Russian psychic, and she brought up into America and India the Theosophical Society and the teaching of the seven rays under a teaching called Isis. Yeah? And she was a channeler, a medium, and a real dark force. Yeah? But she had a door open, and it allowed many different levels of information to be coming in, and it involved certain things about the hierarchy and the working out of the seven rays. That seven rays do exist. Yeah? And they found that manipulating that process, being able to manipulate the influence of the rays, could influence the destruction of humanity or people or nations. Yeah, because every nation has a personality ray and a soul ray. Every person has a personality ray and a soul ray. And every person has a physical ray, an emotional ray, and a mental ray. Yeah, and if you are Russian and you're very cognitively aware through many of your teachings and books on the psychic level, places that people teach psychicism in Russia, their history goes with Blavatsky and the development of the psychicism. Yeah. So they're not unaware of this. They're using it, but it's part of their scientific structure to control the influence of the chakras, finding that that's the fastest and strongest way to affect individuals who are on a higher level, who might be a probationary or first-degree initiate that could be incarnated to do good, but be switched into the Dark Lodge while they're alive. Yeah, and using these influences, it creates what's known as corruption. It corrupts a person, their soul, corrupts them. Opportunities come into their life that are not part of God anymore. They're part of Satan. People you meet, the circumstances you come across, the opportunities are in a group of corrupt individuals, a group. because it's all built on this process, yeah, whether we want it or not. No matter where you go, no matter what country you go to, no matter what police station you walk into, no matter what government you walk into, corruption is its foundation. Corruption is everything that moves. Yeah, it is completely selfish, and it has everything from jealousy to enviousness to, you know, immediate judgment. You are guilty until you find yourself to be innocent. You know, I mean, it's so opposite of the law of love. Yeah, and all of these places are supposed to represent these 7 rays. That's the purpose of the government, the police, the goodwill in action makes manifest into the new group of world servers. Yeah, so there isn't one of these groups, a politician or a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, anybody who's living in this world who is doing things. Yeah, many of those things are under God's plan. It's just that they're corrupt. Yeah, so it's literally a matter of awakening the soul and those who exist in the process of corruption. Yeah, and let that energy just slowly but surely deteriorate through reincarnation. Yeah, you keep the blessings going in this way. Yeah, you do the science of the 7 rays. You bring in the therapy of the soul upon the planet, you know, which is what I'm doing. And that has a day-to-day effect. If you've ever done soul therapy, it has a real big effect on you. And if you, I do this on a planetary level. If you do soul therapy, it's for the planet. You're just experiencing it. Yeah, you're sitting in the middle of it. You have senses. But what you're sensing is what is happening on the earth below you. And in all the elements of nature. That's also what they're experiencing too. And that raises everybody up. Because everybody's one. There isn't a leaf or a bug or a drop that hits this earth that isn't one in the mind of God. Yeah, there's no separation in the mind of God, not in truth. Yeah, but we're not in truth, we're in a lie. Yeah, and we're right smack dab in the process of whether or not we can receive the light and dispel the glamour. Yeah, which is where we're in the middle of. Yeah, so it's not. I'm showing these things because everything has to be seen. Yeah, and this isn't TV. Yeah, this isn't, you know. I'm not on NBC or ABC. There's not more than maybe 100 people who will watch this. Yeah, but I'm doing this as a psychic impression. Yeah, impressing out. I teach. Yeah. Most of the time I'm in meditation. I teach through meditation, through telepathy. And all my students are in contact with me. So I'm teaching at a very high level constantly, and I am here as a witness in order to fix the things of the world. Yeah? Because I'm the planetary logos. Yeah? I have a job. Yeah? And in that job, I heal things. And when I come out like this, in an outward state, you know, that means I'm really actively involved in fixing this thing. Yeah, that we are in a guaranteed state. This is not out of hand. This is just a little problem. There is no problem whatsoever. Yeah, these are little minds, little children having little problems. Yeah, and it's all just going to go away. Yeah, but it's going to take time. And we have to deal with day-to-day reality as practitioners in the mind of Christ. Behaving correctly, purifying ourselves, giving ourselves the opportunity to be in the truth as much as we can. You know, don't be jealous of anybody. Don't be envious of anybody. Don't carry any of these experiences outwardly in any expression. Yeah, and you won't be lending that vibration more and more on earth. Do more soul therapy, listen to pujas, whatever, to raise you up in the higher mind will help. Yeah, because there's an enormous amount of energy going on that no one wants to deal with. And that's the perversion and the corruption of souls. Yeah, whether it be through recruiting young children into homosexuality or recruiting even younger into the process of gender challenges that don't even exist. But because we're in our lower mind and we've been so selfish, and we can be moved into so much deeper selfishness, we can start developing OCD and levels that we have never coped with before. And all of a sudden we think we have gender problems. And really we have OCD. We have a mental problem. Yeah? We have a problem of habitual patterns where the chakras have been turned around on us. And if your chakras are turned around, there is no way in hell, yeah, that you can relate right between a man and a woman. It can't be done because your chakras is what relates back and forth, not you. It's your chakras. You got to be a loving person, a right relationship person. You got to be led by dharma and not just be jumping in bed with any person who asks. Yeah? You discern, discriminate. Yeah? You may be a virgin all your life. Yeah? Because you just didn't want to be corrupted. You didn't want to be defiled. And it wasn't that you were judging someone. It's just that you're not the one. Yeah? And we all have this right. Yeah? And no matter how long it takes to do the right thing and be with the right people and live in the right place, that's life. That's the tree of life. That's how we get through this thing. Yeah? But we are given a soul that guides us to right relationship, a right job, right circumstances. All of our abilities to do the things that we're meant to do comes from our inner character and our building of character. Yeah? And you can't build character if you can't have that same chakra relationship that goes on between male and female. You can't build personal character. So then you have strong sense of a lack of self-worth. No matter how high you get, you still have a lack of self-worth. Yeah? No matter how many yachts you got, you still got to have a better one. Because your chakras, no matter who you are, if your chakras are not radiating the right way, in the right way, in a heart-centered reality, because this world is a science of God. Look at flowers. Look at birds. Look at everything in life. It's geomancy. Yeah? It's a science of God. Yeah? Yeah? And that, if you mess with any of that, it gets really weird, people. And it's too big to mess with. Yeah? It will just go right back to its original form. Yeah? It'll wait for you to die and stop messing with it. And then slowly but surely it'll come back. Yeah? Because it's just a matter of, like taking all the oil and all the things that humanity does, we're learning that we shouldn't do. So we're becoming compassionate out of the process. And there's nothing wrong in going through the process. Yeah? The main thing is that we have to let go and learn how to work through the light, through minimalism. Yeah? Because this process of psychic energy, imagine if, I think I showed you this one, nope.
Located within former files on the paranormal is the dossier of Wolf Messing.
Wolf Messing was a fabulous character. He started out in Germany. He then became known as probably the most famous psychic in Europe in the 20s, the 30s. There are a couple famous tests, and one kind of delicious one was he was tested by Einstein and Freud.
In a historic meeting, Messing was invited to demonstrate his mental abilities.
Okay, now think about that. Einstein and Freud is in this room. Yeah? These are very linear people. Neither one of them are, have experienced psychicism. Yeah? And Einstein is in a state where he's open. Yeah? And Freud is in a state to where he's talking to Jung quite a lot. That's his student. And Jung is in a constant state of psychic awareness. Yeah. So there is this door from the White Lodge that is deeply influencing this room. Yeah. Two people that got the hell out of Germany, out of the Dark Lodge, and ushered in light, technology and sciences that come from Christ. I bring science. Yeah? I create evolution through the tree of life. And it takes us to the science of light. We're on the way to the science of light, which will usher in our relativity, our relationship to God, and we'll see Godhead. And we'll relate to this world in the most incredible way, like Einstein 10 times over. Yeah, everything you think about the great mind of Einstein or this other guy, you know, in psychology, you know, Freud. Yeah. So this guy goes in there, and who he is a major psychic medium. He has psychic ability, he has a big ego, he knows he has the ability, which increases it. Yeah, because it's based on ego. Yeah. Whether it be one way or another, it's based on ego. There's a super ego in the soul, and there's a very evil, intentional, demanding, pressure, or, you know, I get this done ego that's in the personality. Yeah. Two are very different. Yeah. Super ego has the ability to sit back and become nothing and realize something in the whole. And then it becomes really big. Yeah. So it's a super ego. Everything becomes you. Yeah. And that takes you closer to the monad, which everything is you. Yeah. So in this case, this guy is extremely psychic and has the power to overthrow Einstein and overthrow the other guy. Yeah. So Freud is, he's asked to tell this guy, you know, what to do. Yeah. So he literally goes into the mind of Freud and tells Freud what to think and what to tell him what to do. Yeah. And then the guy then turns and says, okay. And then he walks away and comes back with a pair of tweezers and plucks out Einstein's mustache. Yeah. And Freud's like, oh my God, I don't believe it. That's exactly what I told you. Yeah. But in reality, he was simply reading the mind. He was being told to think this. You know, so that can confuse you. If you have one ego is one way and another ego is another way, yeah, you would think it's you. Yeah. But it's not. It was him. And that's where the invisibleness comes in. The controller, the evil one, Satan, yeah, is there without your knowledge and uses you to fulfill its needs. And then you get blamed for it. And everybody and everything falls apart in chaos because of it. No evolution. It just turns everything to inertia. Yeah. As though, oh, you know, yeah, we'll never get past a fossil fuel car. We'll always drive diesel big trucks and haul shit. We'll never get to the moon. We're too busy driving a diesel big truck and hauling shit and driving cars that are fossil fuel. When there's no way our consciousness has evolved to a person who's an engineer working in NASA or other fields of technology that's getting us to the moon. Rather than a much lower mind person who is in inertia, super fine to have a pack of cigarettes in there, you know, doing all the things we're doing in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. By the time we get to the 90s, we're in super inertia, you know, and we got pagan worship going on. We got Satanism going on. You know, we got all kinds of things going on without any knowledge that we're inside of a book. It's scripted, and we're fulfilling a magical process. Yeah. But something different happened that they can't control. Something totally different. The new group of world servers began manifesting in the early 50s. 50s. And it created the Beatles, and it created all these different people. And it created technology and scientists and Einsteins and others. And then another group came, and another group came. And every time when this group keeps reincarnating, it fosters technologies that breaks the will of inertia. So we leave coal behind. We leave steel manufacturing plants behind. We leave all these oil wells behind. And we start fostering building batteries, and hydrogen fuel cells and other forms of technology and electric cars to where it fosters this and that, and solar on our home and it fosters this and that. And it's closing down where corruption would get and keep you in inertia and have you pay high prices for your house and your fuel and all the things that you think you need to survive on. It's all based on money, chaos. And you're not getting enough in order to carry it out. And that's part of the book. Yeah. It's in the book. Yeah. And it's all being fulfilled. But yet this alternative reality is going on simultaneously. Yeah. So the effect of that, the effect of these new technologies coming out, and yeah, then we have a guy like Trump who says, well, you know, I don't believe in windmills because they cause cancer, you know, and electric cars, they will never, he won't even say the word. He won't say electric cars, he won't say solar on your home, he won't say any of those words, yeah, because he can't, yeah. There's this process that they do, which is to control the mind, whether it be Einstein or Freud. These are high minds, yeah. They can be controlled.
Located within former
took out some tweezers, went back into the living room and said to Einstein, "Oh, excuse me here, Professor," and plucked a hair out of his mustache. And Freud said that was exactly what he had asked him to do.
Messing became quite famous for his psychic abilities. He even went so far as to predict the outbreak of war between the Soviets and the Germans, despite Stalin's infamous non-aggression treaty with the Nazis. He also predicted the end of the war to the month and the death of Germany's Führer. In light of his reputation, people began to take his predictions more seriously, especially the occult-obsessed Adolf Hitler, who put a 200,000 mark bounty on Messing's head. The world-renowned psychic was forced to flee to Russia, where Joseph Stalin himself became interested in the possible military application of Messing's abilities. But first, Stalin wanted to test Messing for himself.
One night when Messing was performing in a little border town, they came and took him to see someone. Turned out to be Stalin. And Stalin gave him two tasks to do. One was to rob a bank by psychic means.
Of course, Messing had no account at the bank. His challenge was to withdraw the money using only his psychic powers of influence over the teller's mind. Messing handed him a blank sheet of paper and then mentally willed the teller to withdraw 100,000 rubles. Messing, totally unknowing that his will was completely under Messing's control. When the money was safely inside, Messing thanked the teller, shut the case, and calmly walked out of the bank.
That was test number one, which he passed. And later, apparently, the teller had a heart attack and Messing felt terrible, but the teller lived.
Stalin arranged another test. Messing was to slip past the highly trained soldiers surrounding Stalin's private bunker and drop in on the Soviet leader unannounced. A short while after this challenge was issued, something remarkable occurred. A civilian man with no pass or pretext made his way onto the grounds of Stalin's bunker. Walking past the first ring of guards, he proceeded towards the building and casually walked inside. The guards did not challenge him. In fact, they stood at a respectful distance as he passed. As he made his way through the corridors, the staff offered no resistance. He made it all the way to the inner part of Stalin's sanctum, where even the servants were veteran secret police officers. Stalin looked up to see the man standing in front of him. Wolf Messing. Stalin wanted to know how it was done. Messing explained that he projected one simple thought into the minds of Stalin's guards and staff. I am Beria, the notorious head of the secret police, who none of the guards would ever attempt to stop. He had passed Stalin's test.
Stalin was very much interested in Wolf Messing's abilities to harness him as a way to control, to find out how he controlled more people.
Yeah, how he can control more people. Yeah. So they went into the process of getting more psychics and researching them, and then developing the machines, the psychic generators, the psychotronic machines. And in that, they were able to create the machine that would generate, by the sensitivity of the psychics, they were able to create the machine that would generate a specific outcome. And all it required was, well, no sound, okay. Yeah, so with the psychotronic generators, the process of them, like they showed, was that they have the ability to affect masses of people or individual people, and mainly it's to control the situation, because all their testing was, get this person to give you money, walk through all the guards in the hardest place in the world. You imagine walking through Russian oligarchy, and you got yourself the head of the thing in there, and the guards are crazy ass mean. They're crazy, and their whole job is to make sure no one goes in and harms this guy. But yet, many of them, they walk by like Darth Vader kind of thing. Yeah. And you think, Darth Vader's one scary ass outcome for us in the future. And you might just want to consider what I'm saying. Yeah, it's better to be on the other side and develop these processes, these abilities. I do martial arts, but I do martial arts to move the energy. Yeah, it's just part of what I do. Yeah, and that's Qigong or Qi or whatever way you want to call it, but it is a martial art, and I'm well trained in it. So I know what's going on, and I could feel what's going on. Yeah, so when I move energy, that's the way it's done. And that way it supports nature. That way it moves with nature. It's healing nature and me at the same time. Yeah. But in this case, this is a way to psychically manipulate and control. So here they are at the end of this. They're in a controlled state, and they want to control their government. They want to have an outcome. And at the time that Russia falls, the wall of Germany falls down, and all these people are in their process of gaining a new social order, and who's going to be who or what. Gorbachev was the guy in charge, and that's when everything was starting to begin to straighten out. But there was still a wall in Germany, and there were still these things going on, and they needed to be cleared up. And it was the psychic generators that did this. Yeah, it wasn't us making them do the right thing. Yeah, it was a process of creating a greater open space for Russia. Yeah, because it needed economy in all the countries around it, and it needed the oil. It needed many of the minerals. It needed all the future things that are going to happen. Without them being moved forward to be in that future, Russia would not have an enormous financial future and power that they would then control in a large way. Yeah, so that's their plan. Their plan is to do that sort of thing. So they set up a relationship to the use of these psychic generators. When it came down to when psychic generators were built, they built about a lot, and no one knows where any of them are at. Yeah, and they're put to use, and they're used by the present government of Russia. Yeah. So, and who used those things? Who was in control of them? Was the KGB. And in the last time, Gorbachev was in charge, and the guy under him was then in charge of, and he was a weaker guy, had a weaker heart, had extreme alcoholism. Yeah. So when it came down to change of hands into the Dark Lodge, literally into the psychic Dark Lodge, where the generators are all turned on and the control of the evilest of the evil, for the door to open and for it to then manifest. All the doors are open, and this being is now under control, under a Luciferian powerhouse, a powerhouse, coming out into the world and controlling other leaders to be puppets under Lucifer's process. Yeah. So at the end of that, Gorbachev and Yeltsin, Yeltsin is the last person who is in charge, and he's an alcoholic, and I can show you film after film, the CIA shows, of Yeltsin being under control of the psychic generators. And they can see him having a heart attack, and they're in the office of KGB, and they're in there, and they're all chanting, Yeltsin, Yeltsin, heart attack, and he's having a freaking heart attack, and so then they rush him to the hospital, and all this goes on. So after a while, they reach into his mind and his emotion and his body, so now they can get him to say things. Just like they got the guy to pull the whisker out of his beard, just like they got the guy to think things or do things, they got Yeltsin to say things. Yeah, and this is what he said.
Прошли в телеэфире почти незамеченными. Обычная протокольная встреча президента Ельцина и тогда еще не публичного директора ФСБ Путина. Пройдет совсем немного времени, и на плечи второго ляжет та самая задача – удержать воедино огромную страну, с которой первый уже не справлялся.
Я ухожу. Мне на смену приходит новое поколение тех, кто может сделать больше и лучше.
Yeah. Time to resign. And guess who takes office? Yeah. Putin. Yeah. Putin, the head of the KGB. Yeah. The head of all the psychic generators and all the new industries, yeah, and all the universities, where he put this commercial out right after Yeltsin was gone. He put a commercial out inducting and recruiting all the military and all people who were interested in going in the military, that we have a brand new field of military. We are the psychic military, yeah? And you will, by the thousands, literally millions, were put into these buildings, large numbers of universities, all with the psychic generators. And each one was taught how to make them, how to remake them if they had to tear them apart and put them back together, how to then add them together and use them in many different ways, like, Lego, to create a power plant, yeah, create even more chaos, yeah, how to program them, yeah, and how to get people, literally, you write down what you want them to say, and they will say it. You write down, you want them to become president, and they will do it. Yeah? You write down, you go to all the evangelical ministers, and you tell them you want to be president, and you want God to channel through you, and you'll make Christ prophetic again in America. Make that president. Do that to this president. Yeah, and this is exactly what took place. And all these people, these evangelical people who claim that Trump is the second coming, yeah, wrote books on it, told everybody, that he is chosen by God, he is the chosen one, yeah. And in order for us to get to Armageddon, we need Trump. And unless we get to Armageddon, we will never get Jesus Christ. That's Satan. That's That's the book I'm talking about. Yeah. And it's never going to happen, people. Yeah. That book is being unwritten. The influence of each one of those karmic ties and influences and psychic gestures, there is my relationship counteracting it immediately. Yeah. Dispelling that glamour, dispelling that influence. Yeah. So this man will never make it to another term, but he will make it to prison. And I set up a great deal of people surrounding him in order to make manifest the legal actions it take to take someone so corrupt and so perverted that he would rape a little girl that looked just like his daughter and do it over and over. Yeah? And he's going to be busted for that. And he did that to many little girls of 14 years old. All on video, which is a grand thing. You're going to love it. Yeah. I don't know if HBO is going to put it out like they did the Michael Jackson thing, but it's good for the world to see where you've been and where things are, and opening up the door of the Catholic Church. It'd be good for the world for us to finally walk in there and stop everything and begin the investigation. And if it's of the truth, and it's not a whole bunch of perverts and a satanic ritual, and if you're not under the guidance of Lucifer, and you're a big lie and a con act, and you should tell everybody that you are here for Satan. And you can't continue this shit any further unless you tell people the truth. We should have laws for that sort of thing. Yeah? We do for the wrong vitamins, saying that this vitamin will give you and cure you from cancer. We have laws against that, yeah? And we should have laws against lying, yeah? And setting people up to be going someplace where they think they're going to go meet Christ, and they're being taught to go meet ISIS and Lucifer, yeah? And it's a big cult of goddess orientation, and has nothing to do with Christ, zero to do with Christ. Yeah. So there's this whole thing all is going to get unwrapped. Yeah. And it's not going to be done by war. Yeah. It's going to be done by everybody getting their soul back in their body and getting discernment and discrimination. And their will gets increased, and their chakra and their seventh ray gets ordained. And the Holy Spirit comes into their throat. And now they can act upon it with goodwill and action because they have been cleansed of their curse. That's my job. Yeah, I cleansed everybody all the time, every year, every day. Yeah, that's my job. Yeah. But there is a process of which, what it is I'm cleansing you from. Yeah, you're being cursed. Have been, always have been. Yeah. And it's easy for me. I tried it then. As Jesus, I explained it very clearly. I pointed people out. I said, this and this. All this is going on. This is a curse. You're all under manipulation. These people over here, they're just a bunch of psychics. Get away from divination. Get away from this. Get away from that. You're all possessed by demons. I was pretty clear about it. Just as I am today. Yeah. Except today you are 2,000 years older, and you should be much wiser. And you're all the exact same people. We all just reincarnate. Yeah. So this thing will be taken care of. You're hit by a curse. Yeah. And the curse is healed by Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's not healed by anything else. It's only healed by Jesus Christ. Yeah. The interpretation of Jesus Christ is the ability for you to get the frick out of your solar plex. Yeah. Because you're all dying because of the solar plex. Your liver, your lungs, your vitality, yeah, your mind, yeah, your way of reacting to someone is all solar plex oriented. Yeah, the diet, I got to be vegetarian, or I got to be this, or I got to be that. It's all solar plex. If it was in the heart, we would be one in this thing. We would be one. We would see this so simply through the eyes of God. Yeah, it wouldn't be your view. It wouldn't be your view. It wouldn't be your view. It would be God's view, and God's view would be our view. And it works that way. It's called common sense. Common sense But all of us could walk into a movie and walk out of the movie, and we can all be asked, what did we see? And quite often it's interpreted totally different. Yeah? And it's view. And we need to clarify our view. And that's what, in Tibetan Buddhism, that's what Buddha is about. Buddha transmits the view, clarifies it, vibrates it so strong that it dispels the glamour that keeps your view from the view. And that means the chakras have to be made in order. Yeah. So imagine they did this to Yeltsin, they did all that. Well, what did they do to our president? Let's see what he's talking about lately. I think I did this one. Big increase. I don't know if it's the second. Oh, wow. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is really short, but it is what it is. Yeah, and it's just Trump making a statement. Now we witness him say over and over and over again, you people, you really need to understand the only reason why we have a lot of people saying they got this virus is because we're doing a lot of testing. If you didn't test, you wouldn't have anybody with a virus. Right? That's what he keeps saying. He's like, what? How do you say that? Well, he says that because that's what they're telling him to say. No stupid person would say it. You know what I mean? You got to be channeling. Yeah? So he's right on line. It's scripted. It's scripted. He cannot get outside the script. And he has this enormous ego. So it like jolts out in really insane aspects. Because those are the glamours that are pushing through him to, because he's there to fulfill certain impressions and create chaos, Give people, say it's all wrong to tear down the statues, but yet he instigates all the people around those statues, yeah? As though those are the slavery or all the things that had to do with slavery and the Civil War and all of that, as though that has something to do with our good part of the history. There's a lot of that we can literally finite this thing and come back to the truth and maybe put up 10 or 12 statues saying these are all the people who fought in the war, the generals of both sides. And this is our history, and we understand where we stand in this and why it took place and why it came out. We could do that and never have to worry about that sort of thing, yeah? But that's not an outcome. It's not a thought, because that would be common sense. Yeah? If this kind of thing was put out, many people would go, oh, well, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Yeah? So this is what he does, and this is terrible.
Now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases 99% of which are totally harmless.
99% of which are totally harmless. Yeah, and so that's channeling. Yeah, because you can't say that. Yeah, you in any form of right mind or anything, there's nobody standing next to him. Even his wife, if she watches the news, she would never say that. She would have her own something to say. Well, we're not doing too well. Those poor children. Oh, you shut up over there. Don't ask her to talk. Those poor kids. Oh, yes. I watched the news today. So bad. If she, just in common sense, common grounds. We're all in a common ground. We all can see it. It's common sense, common ground, right? When things are kept from you as though you're not worthy to receive this information, then we will never have common sense. But we're in a world to where we are worthy to receive information. So we can watch either YouTube or news or other medias in order to see ongoing day-to-day symptoms of truth, for us to gain a common ground, gain a common sense, yeah? And be able to establish something out of this, yeah? So anyway, 99% no harm, yeah? 99% no harm.
We don't quite understand why one person with lab values of X does well, while a person with lab values that appear to be better doesn't make it. And a mask is not a big ask to help save your life.
Methodist Hospital uses a procedure to oxygenate the blood and keep patients on. Pregnancy and coronavirus, only one piece of the pandemic. Methodist Hospital treating a rising tide of critically sick patients. The beginning of a sharp increase nationwide of moms with coronavirus giving birth.
There's actually...
I mean, that's just moms, yeah? And it goes on and on and on. You know, from Texas, the news today showed that every single state but 2 had an extreme rise, yeah? And that's not because we're doing testing. I could show you that most of the places that want to do testing don't have the swabs. You know, so they have to wait 3 or 4 days or 5 in order to get those swabs so that they continue testing. We're getting a lot of testing done, but we don't have all the necessary equipment it takes to do the testing we really need to do. Yeah, we were supposed to do 1 million a week, 1 million a week. Yeah, and we were supposed to bring it up to 20 million in a week. And that was all set up by universities and others who had the skills and the ability to put this together, and they had millions of dollars put aside. This is right in the very beginning. I showed you the video of the group of people that were in process to do this, but this was never brought up, never taken into effect, and it was all under the control of this guy. Yeah, he even pushed all the people in charge of the virus. He never saw them again after the first month. Yeah. He put the vice president in charge. He's never had anything to do with anything like that. He's not a doctor. He's never had any relationship to that, and he didn't take any responsibility to do it. Yeah, because they're all under the 6th ray. His whole staff is 6th ray. It's his family, and it's religious fanatics. They trust in him because they believe he is channeling God, and he's not. He's channeling Satan. And that's not nice. It's not good, people. Not good. Yeah. You know, so in that process,
but this morning, a stark reminder on the toll this virus is taking. In just the last 4 months, more Americans have died from COVID. But this morning, a stark reminder on the toll this virus is taking. In just the last 4 months, more Americans have died from COVID-19 than all U.S. soldiers killed in the 18 months the U.S. was involved in World War I, plus the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq.
That's the truth, yeah? And so that, by no means does that come clear to us having 40 million people tested, and we've got 128,000 people die. That's not a 1%, you know? That's anywhere near truth, you know? And it's allowing this thing to move forward, because we're not, as long as we have, imagine Trump, yeah, he is a receiver. He's a receiver, but every receiver is a transmitter. Yeah, it goes both ways, and he has a very big ego. Yeah, so that transmits to the religious group, that transmits to the political group. That's very 6th ray. It carries a flag that goes like this. You know, a lot of guns. Very 6th ray. Very, very, very 6th ray. No 7th ray to the sacral center, all 5th ray. And I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but there is a science to this, and they know this science, yeah? And the process of my chakras, the process of the chakras of Christ, the Lord of the world, are the most important thing on this planet. We all have to enter into the body of Christ to receive those chakras, yeah? And I am willing that process. By being physically incarnated, by having this conversation, I'm entering the body of humanity, and therefore that enters my body. This is an automatic thing, yeah? If I was to sit away in the Himalayas and only deal with a very small number of my students, I would not be entering the body of humanity. Yeah? I'd be coming down into the body of humanity, and I'd be staying very high in this other reality. And that's not the case. I am incarnated. I've been through the military. I've been in both the Navy and the Marines. I've served in every area, in every aspect of medicine and science, and I'm the Buddha. So this process has an extreme amount of collective higher mind in my chakras. Every single person who has a soul and maybe one day be a master, I'm the master of that soul. I'm the master of that ray. So no matter who you are, how particular you are, whether you be a scientist or an engineer or whatever you got in your soul ray, for you to reach that soul, you have to receive from the master who is the master of the soul. And that transmits to you your path. You'll make it all the way through your life. It'll be so divine and so correct. You'll have no idea about failure and misconception, because your telepathy and your caring and your intuition and your compassion will be so much. You'll feel other people. You'll be walking in their shoes and be transmitting into them to make their life a better life, because you're so filled. It works like that. That's the way the world's going to be. That's the way it is. So this process is going to transmit into that, and it's going to literally, it's affecting right now, it's affecting Trump, because Trump has a soul. So I'm doing my job, expressing my relationship on the first ray. I'm the head of Shambhala. I'm the head of Tibetan Buddhism. I am the teacher over the Dalai Lama. If anybody's got a first ray, I've got a first ray. So I have a first ray soul. So that means that whoever's got a first ray soul out there, or a first ray personality, and all those are kings and queens and people of dictators, they got themselves a problem. Because I'm standing right up against them. And with my telepathy, I literally can enter their house. And because we have a ray package of similarity, they have a distinct process of education that could be influenced by karmic change. Putin can become Putin and become the person he is. The person in charge of China can become the person he is. But that becomes an awakening, empathetic position. And just like it was with Gorbachev. Gorbachev was awakened by me, and I gave him dreams. I woke him up into compassion. He started having dreams of nuclear war and how he felt about it when it happened, witnessing it. And he just came out of it and says, I gotta end this whole thing. We gotta shut down these nuclear missiles. We gotta cut back on building these things. That's where all that was started up. And that's mainly because he was overshadowed. And an enormous amount of second ray quality that was awakened in him that isn't normal. And just like Kennedy has a strong second-rate quality that was awakened in him, just like Gandhi had a second-rate quality that was awakened in him. And that made them stand in those groups and radiate light to make change. So that light is in Russia. Whether it's not in Putin at this very moment, and it's not in Trump at this very moment, but it is being instilled in him. He's being reborn. Every day he wakes up. Every moment he breathes, he's breathing in my ashram. Whether he knows he's in my ashram or not, he's slowly but surely being absorbed in the ashram. Because the ashram is set up on a planetary level, and I happen to put an obelisk in his backyard. So there's no possible way he can be a dictator over Satan and rule this continent. It's set by law. And I use sacred geomancy to enforce higher mind. And when lower mind like this comes in, there is always a process that comes through the hierarchy that wills through America the change to go back to right. When we go to war, we go back and we rebuild. You know, we don't claim this place is evil forever. We don't claim Japan's evil forever. We don't claim Germany is evil forever. We go back and we restore it. We rebuild it and we treat them kindly. Yeah? That's odd. That's never been done before, and that's because Christ is in charge of the United States. And everybody here is in that process. And our Washington, D.C. is designed that way. All of our states are designed in this sacred reality that gives us sacredness. Yeah. So we're on the winning side of this thing. This is an outcome winding itself up and coming to an end. We're not going to come to a nuclear war. That's in the book, you know, is a nuclear war. It's not going to happen. You know, we'll come very close many, many times. Lots of crazy people, but it won't happen. Yeah. And out of that, we're going to go into more and more and more levels of education for humanity and philanthropy that will move people into better education and better housing and in many different ways, compassion and empathy towards social problems. Yeah. Instead of all this other stuff. Yeah. Because these psychic generators are going to become zero. Just inert objects that have no power whatsoever. Yeah. Because they can't be controlled unless lower psychicism is passing through them. And as long as I'm doing this work, then that begins to dissipate. Yeah. So now we do an invocation. Okay. Okay, just relax and repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, the puja that I'll be doing is the Great Invocation. And if you listen very clearly, the Great Invocation is extremely helpful at this time. It's an invocation that aligns us to the hierarchy, the coming of the Christ, and the dispelling of world glamour. Yeah, so it invokes our awareness, yeah, an intuitive awareness of a very long process of life. Yeah, that has been going on for a long time. Yeah, but this invocation is constant. It constantly is the invocation that goes on with the Lord of the world. So that process moves through different levels. Yeah, so this talks about the coming of the Christ. Yeah, the coming of the Avatar. Yeah, and the changing of the way things are. You know, how that changes, and it invokes the ability to allow it to happen. Because the difficulty is that when the Dark Lodges in charge were full of corruption and a lot of impurities. So when I come into this, there's a healing crisis involved. Yeah. And it's light. It has energy. It vibrates. Yeah. And that vibration has a direct counteractive relationship like a homeopathic. It's an energetic principle between what might be your constitutional problem. Yeah. And I'm your constitutional answer. So being your constitutional answer, I'm your biggest aggravation. Yeah. The biggest aggravation you ever come across. Yeah. Even though I'm sweet and I'm kind and I'm generous and I do all the right things, yeah, I still am the light. Yeah. And the difficulty is that the ego that people are is designed for sacrificing themselves, like suicide. Yeah. People set themselves up for suicide. They set themselves up to eat wrong. They set themselves up to eat the sugar they're not supposed to eat. Yeah. That's what their ego lives for. Their ego kills them so the soul will not enter the body. Yeah. And it's important the soul enters the body. So there's this war called the dweller on the threshold. Yeah. And since this is the whole planet, yeah, then we are in the dweller, all of us, and we all have the same problem. Should we go outside? Should we wear a mask? I don't care if you're in India, Afghanistan, Malaysia, China, Japan, New York. Every single person's saying the same thing. Every single person's got the same problem. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a ability for us to become healers. That's the process of the healing crisis, is that we are, without any doubt, we have doubt. Yeah. And that doubt makes us not a healer. Lack of faith makes us not a healer. We can be a doctor, we can be a practitioner, but are you a healer? Can you talk to someone and their symptoms go away? Yeah? Yeah? Can you get the demon to come out of the person towards you, and by the time it gets anywhere near you, it has dissipated into nothingness, because the demon didn't exist in the first place. It was conjured. It was conjured by a witch somewhere along the line. And all those conjurings do not exist. Yeah? They're astral, manifested as a curse. So they're inside people. Unless we don't have to get linear and go, oh, you got a demon in there, its name is Joey, pulling it out, you know. But just in kindness and in love, in our first initiation, we become magnetic healers. Yeah. So I put out these etheric weavers so that people can get used to being in the presence of healing. Yeah. And it's Christ, it's me, I'm doing it. Yeah. But yet, I'm just like all disciples, I'm giving everyone the opportunity to be like Christ. Everyone. So here's your first one. And when you do this, you can't think, you can't put it over them, you can't say, what is wrong with them? Do they have cancer? And think, oh, it's spinning to the right, they got cancer, oh boy. You know, none of that. It won't answer you like that. It's on its own, because it's working with Christ. And the Christ is working with the soul of this individual and the soul of the person that's holding the etheric weaver. So a triangle takes place, and that creates the fostering of fellowship, the first initiation. If we can get through that, get past the processes of all your witchcraft and all the things that tells you Christ doesn't exist. And Christ, no, that can't be coming from Christ, this weaver. But your soul tells you it is coming from Christ. The baby tells you it came from Christ. Yeah? Because it's got all kinds of energy coming out telling you exactly where it comes from. Exactly where this comes from, exactly where everything I do has me in it. Yeah? And it's not like everybody else. It's the opposite. Anything of everybody else's has the energy of what it is in them. This is my purse. This is my car. That's my shoes. Yeah? So if you put on those people's shoes, you'd be cursed. You'd pick up all that. This is my shoes. And that would not make you a better person. But if you were to come across Jesus' shoes and put those on, you're going to walk differently. You're going to heal. Yeah. Anything that comes with me has a radiating process that has to do with your chakras. And all the chakras are in the light. It all depends on your level. Whether or not you can get to how high, it all depends on you. Yeah. So the light takes you through every initiation, all the way through the process. And the first initiation is magnetic healing. And that opens you up to letting people know Christ exists, that Christ radiates to this tool. And that begins the first externalization of Christ. Yeah, the externalization of Christ. And that creates healers in the world. Yeah, not Christ walking around as a healer, Christ walking around as a teacher, creating healers. And they become disciples much longer down the road, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe 50 lives. Yeah. But sooner or later, they become the temple, and they become the temple builder, because they know in their mind and consciousness that the whole planet is set in ley lines, like meridians and chakras. Yeah. And that if we walk this earth under the guidance of Christ, our feet heal those meridians. So we're guided to Mexico, to wherever we go, or sit in the same house for a long time, because we are a meridian healer. And we do acupuncture with our feet, with our body. Yeah? And we are moved by the earth. That's higher divination. Yeah? That's the movement of God moving you and aligning you, and that takes your chakra here and your throat center here, and it takes your solar plex to connect to your heart. And that moves your lifestyle. And that moves you to minimalism, to where you don't need a big house, you don't need all these things that are exaggerations of all the things that you think you need. But they all just go away, simply because your chakras are working, and you become more and more of a healer. You buy the smaller house, yeah. You get the electric car, yeah. You do all these things that make you a true minimalist. You're on the way to becoming a master in the new age. Yeah? And when you die, you're going to reincarnate with such a pretty, healthy body. You're going to be the teacher to your mom and dad. Yeah? You're going to be the way shower for the people on your block. Yeah? And collective groups of people, other children that incarnate with you, are going to be attracted to you because you've already connected yourself to minimalism and higher forms of interconnection, where your psychicism draws you back to your loved ones, and not your karma that draws you to the last person who shot you in your previous life, or maybe 2 or 3 lives before that. That couldn't get back to you in your last life, just missed you, but they're going to come. That's life. That's your curse, people. Yeah. And my job is to erase all those, to where you do never have any of those come up in your life. You bring blessings. That's the guru. Yeah? The master creates another world that provides you mercy. Even though there's enormous suffering and bullshit going on, you can be in the middle of grace and receive mercy in the moment, and be the only person who walks out. Or you radiate light into a whole bunch of other people, and they all choose to walk out with you. But the will of God is now moving that process. That's the future. Yeah? It's not where we're at now, but it's where we're going. And masses of people are in that energy and manifesting in it. So that's why I do the invocations. That's why I do the ceremonies. There are tens of thousands of people that listen to this one invocation. Not the most. The one that people listen to the most is the invocation of Vajrasattva. Yeah, that around the world there are thousands of people that are constantly listening to. I know, because they get it from me. Yeah, and they tap into this channel, and there's thousands of people listening to my. And I got all these different songs out there, but all of them are choosing this one song. thousands in a day. That's a lot of people. It's all around the world: Malaysia, Russia, China, India, Afghanistan. Just like 20 people sitting, just tripping out. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do the Great Invocation. All right, so we're going to do Om. We all do the Om together, and just do it with me. And there's no wrong way of doing it. Just try and do it in a way that you can feel the vibration in your body. Yeah, so that Om carries throughout your whole body. And just remember, when you do the Om, it's the Om of creation. It's the beginning word. Yeah, so you're literally aligning yourself to the thought form of God. Yeah, that first comes out as a sound. It comes with light, comes with a sound, and it creates the first form. Yeah, so when we say Om, we're really tapping in to a possible alignment of energy that can move through us, that comes with the light. Yeah, so it comes from on high down, but everything is together. Yeah, it's not a low, not a high. Yeah, and it's in the Om that we get that. Yeah. All right, so enjoy.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May humanity of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all mankind be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us do our part.
Take a deep breath.
I invoke the holy archangels of heaven. Let the lords of liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of mankind. Let the rider from the sacred place come forth. And come say, come forth, O mighty one. Let the souls of mankind awaken to the light. And may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of the woe has come. Come forth, O mighty one. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O mighty one. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O mighty one, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. within the mind of God. Let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, a purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of mankind, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not to hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and let life and all events and bring forth to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavage be gone. Let love prevail. Let all mankind love.
Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So that's a lot to take in relationship to psychic generators and all of that and the process of psychicism. But the thing is that we are all souls, we're all angels, you know, we're greater, much greater than what's ever been led to believe. You know, we're led to believe that we're filled with sin. You know, we're led to believe that, you know, we've got all kinds of things wrong with us, and many of us are really stupid and just born in certain ways due to our race or situation. So many things are impressed upon us in lesser teaching and knowledge that has nothing to do with the truth. And the truth is a very high place. It's very, very high. And all of it is worked out in the higher planes, in the higher place, in the higher mind. Astronomy, physics, all of that is worked out in the higher mind. Whether you're Einstein or you're, Steve Jobs or anybody, it all worked out in the higher mind. It all worked out in a vision. It all worked out first there in some trippy-ass state of mind, and a view was given. And the view was the future. Yeah. And the thing is that we are incredibly psychic. Yeah. And we're precogs. Our biggest thing is that we have precognition. We have extreme, strong impressions of the many different ways we could take a path and the outcome on each one. And we can live a very, very nervous life because we do not have the confidence to follow the right path. And they're all there. Every dimension of every choice, an outcome, month later, year later, circumstances of people, places, and things that are pulling you to go in that direction. You'll find it later when you get there. Whatever choice you make. So meditation, developing your intuition, saying no more often than yes, and eating really well. Ground yourself out. Get the elements inside of you so that the lower teachings that teaches you that your body is impure, as though you're not a holy vessel, And if the false teaching is that it tells you you're a holy vessel and everything you put into it is unholy, and that's where you're wrong. The prasadam is outside of you. You need to bring it in, and recognize it, love it, Do not judge it. Do not find favor over one over another. Use your intuition. Use your wisdom. Gain skills. Develop those skills. And you'll be amongst the other people on those higher planes that have also developed the exact same decisions. And they're higher minds. And higher minds, we eat, quite a variety of food. It's called wholesomeness. And we live in moderation to that food. So basically what we eat is usually very common and considerably connected to the type of place that we're living in. whether or not we grow our food, whether or not we buy our food. But the main thing is that we see the food as prasadam and not as anything that is poisonous. Yeah, because if we think of things as being poisonous, we're never going to discern or discriminate and know whether or not it actually is poisonous. So we'll never take it in. Everything we take in, we'll take in as impurity, and our body will build up impurity from our own freaking brain of suicide. Yeah, by putting thought forms in your head that you just distrust God being the one that got you that. Put it in. Oh, it tastes like shit. Well, good sense. You can taste it. You don't like it, don't eat it. Yeah? Use your senses, yeah, to make the decisions. And after a while, your senses tell you, God, I need a steak. I haven't had a steak in a month. I need a steak. You eat the steak, it's done. You just go on with your life and eat those minimal things that you normally eat every day. And every once in a while, things will come up to where you need those things for your nutrients. And you have the intuition to be guiding you. And you don't need a doctor, and you don't need this, and you don't need people to tell you what to do and how you need to look. Yeah, you need to eat. And then you need to exercise and practice some form of martial arts, whether it be Tai Chi, Aikido, Qigong, some form of martial arts, using exercise, movement. Yeah. You do that, you're actually connecting yourself more and more and more into your sacral center in a spiritual way. Yourself as a spiritual person. Yeah? You don't have to call yourself a monk or a nun, but in reality you're practicing the practice of a monk or a nun. Yeah? And you're instilling that into life, and life becomes more prasadam. Yeah? And the food that you eat, you're giving thanks to it. You're cooking good food, you're eating good food, and you are getting light. You're getting light from the food. And then from the interaction of anything that you have in life is also prasadam. Every person, place, or thing is prasadam. As long as you're on the path, it's prasadam. And then you learn to discern, discriminate whether or not it takes you off the path. Person says, oh, have a beer. No, don't think so. Well, why are you here? You know, we're all, the conversation goes on, and slowly but surely it goes down. And they're not interested in pushing you to have a beer. That's relationships. Yeah? You stay strong, that's your heart. You have courage, that's your heart. You have strength, that's your heart. You give in, that's your solar plex. Yeah? You don't have courage anymore, that's your solar plex. You lean towards suicide. Yeah? All right. Thank you very much for attending. Enjoy.